Hi, I'm Paul, aka P. McLeanstone, and I've been learning Go now between 3 and 4 months. I've had my first lesson with Clossius. I've had a couple of game reviews on his Twitch channel, which is awesome. And one of the things that he's mentioned, or that he looks at when he's looking at how you're going, is how many games you're playing live. Now, if I look back, I can see I'm playing 9 games at the moment, correspondence. And I've also played a number of bot games. Now, I normally play bot games when I'm not getting a game. I'm waiting for quite a while for a game and there's none happening. So I decide I'm just going to do a quick bot game. But the biggest problem is that I've done a whole lot of correspondence games that take a long time. And I've learned so much. I learn so much every week that if a game lasts 2 weeks, I'm living with the problems that I stepped into from 2 weeks earlier, which is actually sort of good in a way because it like reinforces don't make those mistakes again because it takes ages and effort to dig out of them. But you lose that cycle of losing and then figuring out why you lost and figuring out what you did right and then having that positive reinforcement, which is a problem. So my day job is testing IT systems, and one of the tools I use for testing IT systems is called Postman. Now, with Postman, I can interact with the same endpoints that generate these results. And I thought, since quite a lot of the people who are interested in Go are also, keen to learn stuff, well, that's me anyway, and I imagine there's a few others like me, I thought I'll just show you on this channel how to actually interpret with a testing tool all this data that causes this page to load and then do something a bit interesting with it. So this is Postman, and I'm going to show you how to run this on your own desktop. And if I run this query, it produces a graph. So it basically looks at the last 100 games I've played, and it only considers the 19 by 19 ranked games that are not annulled. And then it plots them as green and red dots. So a green is a win and a red is a loss. It plots them on a X and Y axis, where the X axis is the time in days since or from now in the past. So those 100 games, 69 were ranked 19 by 19s that were not annulled, and it spreads over about 21 days, so about 7 weeks. Sorry, about 3 weeks, 7 days a week. And the dot size indicates how long a game took, but it's reverse to what you might first think. It's more important to play live games, so I'm making the dots bigger when they're live or they don't take very long, and smaller when they run for a long period of time. So I basically look at the time a game starts to when it ends, and there's a number of seconds, and I do a log of that, and I make the size based on that log of how long a game took. That means if you did a correspondence game with someone, but it only took an hour to run, it will look in here as if it was a live game, even though technically it wasn't live. That's why I think it's sort of nice to be able to do that. So the other nice thing is you can see that you should be at your level mostly green below a certain point and mostly red above a certain point. So I think I improved a lot about a week and a bit ago when I had my lesson. I think my lesson was about here. And you can see I was losing most of my games under 1200 of an ELO ranking. And then after my lesson, I was frequently winning them at this level, which is a step up. That's about 2 actual ranks. Like 1000 is 25, and 1200 I think is 21. So single digit Q is about around here, around this part of the graph. So for those who are interested, I'll show you how you can download Postman onto your machine and actually run this, and I'll show you how it actually works. So when you run this query, you get this result back. Well, this is the raw result. You get all this data, right? And you can format it in a pretty format, which says that I've played 615 games on OGS, and these are the results. So each of the results is this whole blurb of data. That's one result. It has information about the white player, the black player, what their rating is in a yellow type number, what their name is. You can actually go and look at what their image is for like their their picture, and you can see what their username is, their country is, basically all the information that's in there. You can also see the number of the black player, the number of the white player, what the game width and height is, what the rules were, if it's ranked or not, and I'm using this to help me decide which things to chart or not chart. And you can also see who wins. So it should say in here, black lost is false, white lost is true, and nulled is false. We also have here the start time and the end time for the game, and I'm using that to determine the size of those dots. So basically, this query here produces 100 lots of results. If we were to choose page 2 instead of page 1 and hit send, then we will get the next 100 results. So if we now look at that with visualize, we can see that we're back 21 days here to 42 days. I was only doing 5 a week at that stage. And we can see that, I was losing a lot more games with down here in the red, and I was doing more correspondence games, and I had a bit of a gap. Had a few wins down here, but they were correspondence games as well. So that's how it works. Now to show you how to install this for yourself, I've got here a new Windows instance on AWS, because I use AWS all the time, and I want to download the app. I'm going to download a 64-bit, so you can do this yourself as well. And once it's okay, now it's downloaded, I can click here and say show in folder, and right click, run as administrator, yes, run. Now in the description I'm going to put this thing called a link to a collection. So a collection is a whole lot of endpoint definitions, if you like, for tests. And one of them in this link is actually the one that goes to OGS and gets a player history. So now it's doing its thing, it's doing the install, it's now finished, and now it's going to give me a login page. So it hasn't given me a login page. It says sign in. We don't want to sign in. If you don't get this screen straight away, I actually did install this already, then I removed it. There's a little bit of text down the bottom saying, I don't want to sign in, just take me to the app. Once you're there, we can click on import, and we want to import from link. We want to paste in, grab this from the description, continue, and it's called OGS, and say import. And then if we click on collections here, we'll have one collection, and this is it, right? This is the collection. Now if you notice in here, there's this double curly braced player ID. So we need to put this player ID in. So to do that, we have to create a collection. It's the only, an environment. It's the only messy thing we have to create. So we're going to do new environment. I'm going to call it OGS demo, and we're going to add a variable in here called player ID, and we're going to put my player ID in, which is 825140, add, and X for exit. Then we're going to select that, and now if we hover over player ID, we've got a number. Now all we have to do is hit the send button, and it will send that request off. If I make this really big now, and I scroll this up here, and I visualize, then we can see the graph, which is pretty cool. Now, if we wanted to change that user ID, or that value, we just click on that little right thing to update, and let's choose spectral 10K. and enter, and just close that, and then hit send. Now, Spectral 10K is used a lot. So of the last 100 games, 62 were ranked, and it's doing 866 a week, so that's much more than me. And we can see here that most people seem to play fairly short games. There was a timeout one here. That was a bit longer game. It was probably a short correspondence game or a very slow live game. Now, because this is 100 games, it did these 100 games over a half a day. Obviously, all the correspondence games are going to take longer than that, and this is showing you ones that have just finished, but there will be some that finish within the last half day. But obviously most people who are using Spectral 10K are playing fairly quick games. So anyway, that's a quick demo. You can try this for yourself, see how you go. Let me know in the comments what you think, and it's just sort of a fun thing which might teach any of you who are interested a bit more about the way APIs work. I didn't show you the most important part. Let's actually have a look at what the script does. I stop the video before doing that. I'm going to scroll down here. So this is the script that runs after we push the send button. So when we push the send button, it sends a request off to this endpoint, just like the web page does, and it runs this code. Now what is happening in this code is it's going to do a few loops. It's going to do a loop to plot these values, but the real guts of it is here. So what this is doing is it's getting the response, Postman response JSON format, and it's putting it into this field called response, and then it is it's looking at the current time and it's logging that out. And now for the logging, you can look at the console. These are the log messages that are in the console. So if I put some text here, console.log, and then put some stuff in here, it will show out in the log. So that's how you can see what's happening in your test script. And if I just scroll this back down, then what I'm doing is I'm going through this loop. So for I equals 0, while I is less than the number of games returned, auto increment I, I'm looking to see if the results for that particular game, the 5th or the 20th or the 100th or whatever it is, if that's annulled. So if annulled is false, and if it's a ranked game, and if the width is 19, and if the height is 19, then do all of this. Then what I do is I look at what the time is, so that I can plot it on an axis, and I look at the game duration in seconds. So this is the way to get the number of seconds since, well, actually it's number of milliseconds between the start and end of the game. I divide that by 1,000 to get the number of seconds. Then I actually take 10 minutes off that, 600 seconds off that, and I do some math. I do a log base 10, and you can read this if you care about it. But basically it means that a game that took several minutes will be a much bigger dot than a game that took an hour, which will be a much bigger dot than a game that took a day, which will be bigger than one that took, say, a week. So that's that. I work out based on if the player, if this user ID is black or white, and if black or white won or lost, how I'm going to structure the data that gets pushed into a results array, which is then charted in this thing to generate a chart. And you can see here that the title of the chart is ranked 19 by 19 results by opponent's ELO rank, with the games and how many games per week. So that's a really quick run through of what the script does that produces this output. So hope you found this interesting. Have a great day.